Kilmar Abrego Garcia's story is at the center of a heated national debate on immigration and deportation. His name has become a symbol for the thousands of families whose futures hang in the balance, as the country grapples with questions of justice, safety, and belonging. Kilmar has lived in Maryland for many years, building a life as a devoted husband to a U.S. citizen and a loving father to his children. He's worked hard, paid taxes, and contributed to his community, all while trying to provide a stable home for his family. Yet, despite his deep roots in the U.S., the government is determined to deport him, threatening to tear his family apart. His case has become a powerful example of the clash between a family's desperate fight to keep a loved one safe and the Trump administration's aggressive removal policies. For Kilmar's wife and children, every day is filled with uncertainty and fear as they rally with supporters and plead for his release. Abrego Garcia's journey through the U.S. legal system has been long, complicated, and fraught with setbacks. He's faced multiple hearings, legal challenges, and shifting policies that have made his fight to stay even more difficult. Currently, he's being held in a detention center in Virginia, separated from his family, while they campaign tirelessly for his right to remain in the country he calls home. The emotional toll on his loved ones is immense, as they wait for news and hope for a positive outcome. The government accuses him of serious crimes, including alleged MS-13 gang membership, charges that, if true, would disqualify him from seeking asylum or other protections. These accusations have cast a shadow over his case, making it even more controversial and high stakes. Kilmar's lawyers argue that he faces real and immediate threats to his safety if deported, insisting that the government's evidence is weak and that he is not the criminal they claim. Meanwhile, ICE officials maintain that his fears are exaggerated and accuse him of using legal tactics to delay his removal. At the heart of this case is a fundamental question: is Kilmar Abrego Garcia a victim of persecution, deserving of protection, or a criminal unfit to remain in the United States? The answer will determine not only his fate, but also the future of his family. This fundamental disagreement has made his case a national flashpoint, sparking passionate debate among politicians, activists, and ordinary Americans about what justice and fairness should look like in the immigration system. The outcome of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case could set a powerful precedent for countless others caught in the crosshairs of U.S. immigration policy, shaping the lives of families and communities for years to come. Abrego Garcia is currently detained on federal human smuggling charges, a situation that has upended his life and placed him at the center of a complex legal battle. The charges stem from a high-profile investigation, and the case has drawn attention from both local and national media, highlighting the broader issues surrounding immigration enforcement in the United States. Despite the serious allegations, he's pleaded not guilty, maintaining his innocence as he faces the daunting prospect of a federal trial. His defense team argues that the evidence against him is circumstantial, and that he has been unfairly targeted due to his immigration status. This criminal case complicates his ongoing immigration fight, as both proceedings are deeply intertwined. Any outcome in the criminal court could have immediate and lasting consequences for his immigration status, making every legal decision critical. In 2019, a court order protected him from deportation to El Salvador, recognizing the real and present danger he faced from violent gangs in his home country. The judge's decision was based on credible threats to his life, offering him a temporary shield from removal. But a violation of that order, whether intentional or not, led to one of the most dangerous and uncertain chapters in his story, putting him back in the crosshairs of both the criminal justice and immigration systems. After a mistaken deportation and a perilous return to the U.S., he was briefly released, only to be redetained by ICE agents. The confusion and chaos surrounding his case have made it even harder for his legal team to mount a consistent defense. This relentless legal back and forth has left his family in constant uncertainty, never knowing if each day will bring good news or another setback. The emotional toll has been immense, with loved ones struggling to maintain hope. He's now fighting on two fronts: defending himself in criminal court, where the stakes are years of imprisonment, and battling deportation in immigration court, where a single ruling could send him back to a country he fled in fear for his life. As of September 2025, he remains in a Virginia detention center, with a federal judge temporarily halting his deportation while the courts review his case. The uncertainty of his future looms over every day he spends behind bars. His lawyers are racing against the clock to challenge the government's efforts to remove him. The stakes are enormous. His freedom, his safety, and his family's future all hang in the balance as they prepare for the next hearing. Every legal move now could determine whether he stays in the United States or is sent away for good, making this one of the most pivotal moments in his life. In March 2025, despite a clear and binding court order that should have protected him, Abrego Garcia was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, a country he had fled years earlier in search of safety and a new beginning. The government called it an administrative error, a simple mix-up in a sea of paperwork, but for Abrego Garcia it was a nightmare come to life, a life-threatening ordeal that shattered his sense of security. The 2019 order had been issued specifically to protect him from the gang violence that plagued his homeland. Yet, a bureaucratic slip, one overlooked document, one unchecked box, put him in grave danger, sending him back to the very threats he had risked everything to escape. His family and lawyers, shocked and desperate, scrambled to correct the mistake. They worked around the clock, making urgent phone calls, filing emergency motions, and pressuring the government to bring him back before it was too late. After months of legal wrangling, public outcry, and relentless advocacy, he was finally returned to the U.S. in June 2025. But instead of finding relief, he was immediately detained and faced new smuggling charges, compounding his ordeal. But his return didn't end his troubles. It thrust him back into a system that had already failed him once, leaving him isolated and uncertain about his future. The wrongful deportation became a key piece of evidence in his fight to avoid being sent away again. His legal team argued that the government's mistake had put his life at risk and undermined the very foundation of due process. The case exposed serious flaws in the immigration system, drawing national attention and raising urgent questions about government accountability, oversight, and the human cost of bureaucratic errors. For Abrego Garcia, the experience left lasting trauma, sleepless nights, constant anxiety, and a deepened fear of what might come next. The ordeal changed him, leaving scars that may never fully heal. His brief, terrifying time in El Salvador now defines his legal battle, shaping every argument and every hearing as he fights for the right to remain in the only place he feels safe. The stakes are no longer theoretical. They're a matter of survival, not just for Abrego Garcia, but for countless others caught in the system's crosshairs. Upon arrival in El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was arrested and sent to the notorious Secot mega prison. There, he alleges he was tortured and abused, evidence his lawyers say proves the danger he faces if deported. The prison's harsh conditions and the government's crackdown on suspected gang members made his ordeal even more severe. His family and legal team had little information about his fate, racing against time to secure his release. After weeks of pressure, the U.S. government brought him back, but he returned physically and emotionally scarred. His experience in Secot transformed his case from a hypothetical risk to a documented reality. Now, his lawyers argue, the U.S. can't guarantee his safety anywhere else. The trauma he endured is central to his plea for protection. His story is no longer just about fear, it's about what's already happened. After his return, the Trump administration sought to deport Abrego Garcia anywhere but El Salvador. First, they tried Uganda, a country with which he has no ties, under secretive U.S. agreements with several African nations. When he expressed fear of persecution there, officials shifted to Eswatini, a small kingdom in southern Africa. Each new destination forced his legal team to scramble, researching human rights records and preparing new defenses. Critics call this a global shell game, arguing it's a way to sidestep U.S. obligations to protect people from torture. The government's determination to remove him, no matter the country, shows the lengths it will go to enforce deportation. For Abrego Garcia, every new country means renewed fear and uncertainty. The search for a destination has become a race against time and bureaucracy. The plan to deport Abrego Garcia to Eswatini sparked immediate alarm. Eswatini's poor human rights record and history of political repression make it a dangerous destination. Reports of torture and incommunicado detention for non-citizen deportees echo his ordeal in El Salvador. His lawyers warn he could be imprisoned or even chain-deported back to El Salvador, violating court orders. The government's shifting destinations raise fears of indirect returns to danger. Abrego Garcia has formally declared his fear of torture in Eswatini, triggering a legal review. ICE remains skeptical, but his legal team insists the risks are real. They're not just fighting deportation, they're fighting for his life. The outcome could determine whether he faces safety or another nightmare abroad. ICE sees Abrego Garcia as someone gaming the system, not a victim. The government's case hinges on alleged MS-13 gang ties, making him ineligible for asylum. Officials point to his claims of fear in over 20 countries as evidence of delay tactics. Even a withdrawn domestic violence complaint is used to argue he lacks good moral character. ICE insists it's acting within the law, seeking a third country only because El Salvador is off-limits. This deep distrust has turned the case into a bitter standoff, with each side accusing the other of bad faith. Amid the turmoil, Costa Rica emerged as a possible safe haven. One country Abrego Garcia would accept. Known for stability and human rights, Costa Rica could offer him legal status and a chance to rebuild. The U.S. reportedly offered this option, but only if he pleaded guilty to smuggling, a charge he denies. Refusing the deal, he chose to fight for his innocence, even at great personal risk. The Costa Rica option remains, but it's tangled in legal negotiations. His decision highlights the complexity of his predicament: safety at the cost of admitting guilt, or continued uncertainty. The standoff continues, with his future hanging in the balance. For now, Costa Rica is hope deferred. As of September 2025, a federal judge has paused Abrego Garcia's deportation, granting a temporary reprieve. The court is scrutinizing the government's actions and demanding answers about third-country deportations. This hearing could set a precedent for future cases, weighing government authority against human rights protections. For Abrego Garcia, it's a brief window of safety as his legal team fights to reopen his case and secure asylum. The next few weeks are critical. His fate and the fate of others in similar situations hangs in the balance. Will the court allow deportation to proceed, or will it rule in favor of protection? For now, Abrego Garcia remains in limbo, his future uncertain as the world watches.